Hi everybody. I want to go over the week 13 assignments with you just to make sure you understand how to do them. So for week 13, you are going to be completing the critical evaluation planner that you have been working on. So far you have done part 1, author position, and part 2, evidence and fallacies. So this week you're going to finish it up by looking at language and author credibility. Before you get started, however, there is some reading that you need to do. So in the announcement, there's a link to some learning materials. You're going to read about denotation and connotation, and you can also access that through the Unit 4 learning materials. So read about those terms, understand a little bit about what we mean by connotative language, and then you also will read about tone. Understand what that term means and how that applies to language and figuring out what the author is trying to do in any given writing. So read through those two materials and then you'll be ready to do part 3. So you're going to go to the original document that you used and you have already filled out parts of it. So part 1 should already be filled out. If I made comments, you would want to make those corrections. Part 2 should also be filled out. Again, make any corrections based on my feedback. For part 3, we're going to look at the author's use of language. And this will be the article that I assigned you, the article on ungrading. So there are some questions here in part 3. What writing techniques are being used to make the argument more convincing? So think about how the author put this together and the language that was used and try to decide what makes this argument more appealing or believable based on the writing style. You'll also talk about any connotative language that you see in the author's essay and whether it's positive, negative, or of course neutral. So look for words that have kind of an emotional associated meaning. You also want to ask, what was the impact of this connotative language? So if the author uses languages that have a very positive or negative associated meaning, how did that impact the reader's acceptance of the author's ideas? And then finally, what is the tone of the article? And this would be the feeling or attitude that comes through by the word choices that are made. So this should be some kind of an adjective, a descriptive word. Is the tone pleading, angry, friendly, academic? What kind of feeling comes across in this article? All right, then you're ready to go back to do some more reading. Before you can complete part 4, you need to read source evaluation and author credibility. So go through that material and then also read through the section on worldview, bias, and assumptions so that you understand what those terms mean. So be sure that you go through those materials. Once you're done with that, you're ready again to go back to your planner. So, looking at the author, who is she? What is her education and experience? Is she qualified to write on this topic? So, is this source, is this article, is the author credible? So you're going to answer those questions. And then you'll fill out the section on worldview, bias, and assumptions. So what do you think is the author's worldview? Where is she coming from? What is her basic way of looking at the world? You also want to look to see if she has given any evidence of bias in her writing. Does she unfairly favor one side or another? And if she does, what would be some evidence to show that? And then assumptions. Is the author making statements that she doesn't provide evidence for? Assumptions that she is just making and believes that everyone should just accept that statement. If you see that, then you would want to put that here in your planner. And then the last part of the planner is your overall evaluation. And this will be the thesis of your essay. Did she do a good job in making her point? Was she effective? And you're basing that on all of those different parts that you already filled in on the planner. Is she credible in terms of the claims she's making, her evidence, her language, her credibility as an author? And so based on all of that, you should determine whether or not you believe she is effective in making her point. And then the last part of the planner is just to remind you how you will be structuring your final paper. So you'll be using all of the things you've done to put your paper together. And this shows you how the different parts play into your final essay. You'll be writing your essay next week, so this week you're just finishing the planner. When you're done finishing that information, you are going to go to the assignment folder for Part 4. I am going to grade both Parts 3 and Part 4 in one document, even though in grades they're two, and I will post your grades in the two different parts. But because we're doing this all in 1 week, I want you to put it all together and then go to the link for the Part 4 submission folder. And there you can see the rubric, that's for Part 4, and you can upload your file. If you submitted in Part 3, I'll see it there as well. But I don't want you to separate them. I really want it all to be one document at this point. That will be easier for you to use as you write your essay next week. All right, that's it for this week. Have a good week, and I'll see you or talk to you again next week.